Hi, welcome back. My name is Hannah. I help people like you that want to communicate with confidence, clarity, and charisma. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe to my channel or head over to my Instagram, Articulate with Hannah. Today's video is all about the fear of public speaking. And for those of you that know me, you probably are aware of the fact that I'm very afraid of bears, as in the hairy, large mammal that lives in the woods. We're making all the noise we can because there's a bear. And I know a lot of you are afraid of public speaking, something I am not afraid of. I bring up this fact that I am deathly afraid of these wild animals that live in the woods because that is something that is relatable. I understand that fear. I understand being paralyzed by something and so scared that you cannot even move. I don't let my fear, though, of bears prevent me from doing the activities I love. It doesn't stop me from going hiking, mountain climbing, exploring in the outdoors, adventuring, or even backpacking. Am I still afraid of the bears when I'm out there? Absolutely. But have I done things and do I have techniques in place to make myself feel less afraid? Yes. And that is what I'm giving you all today in this video, is tips, tricks, and techniques on how to move past your fears of public speaking. And yes, it's a plural. There are multiple fears involved when it comes to public speaking. So you're watching this video because you want to get past those fears. And just to let you know, you are not alone. According to a Washington Post article in 2014, 25% of Americans list public speaking as their number one fear. Behind that are like clowns and, I don't know, bears probably. For today's video on getting over your fears in public speaking, be sure to buckle up. This video will be packed with tips, techniques, and tools to get past your fear of public speaking, but it's also going to require that you take a microscope to you and analyze how you work, how your fears work, why you have them, where they exist, and how you overcome them in your regular life. So you'll probably want a pen and a piece of paper, if not a notepad, to take notes on some of the prompts that I give you throughout the video. You have fears around public speaking, and you don't actually have a fear of public speaking itself. You have a fear of the outcome. You have a fear of something that happens during. Ask yourself this question: ultimately, what am I afraid of when it comes to public speaking? What outcomes am I most concerned about? What scares me about it specifically? And people that are just like, it just scares me, dig into that. What is it about public speaking that specifically scares you? Here are some very common fears that I have heard throughout the years. I'm worried about disappointing people. Normally, you just sit at your desk, send emails, you're quiet in meetings, and you're worried the minute you get up in front of people in a meeting, you'll disappoint them, making mistakes. You're worried that you'll make a mistake, you'll say something bad, wrong, incorrect, and you will be viewed as less than you are. You'll be seen as incompetent, like you don't know your materials, like you're unsure of what you're talking about. And that's not a position you'd like to put yourself in or to let your peers see you in. You're afraid of being wrong. You're afraid that if you film something on camera or you do an interview or you do a presentation of some sort, that you'll say something wrong and people will judge you and they'll remember that one wrong thing that you said. You're worried you won't be as good as other people. You look at other people that get up and present, they don't seem to have a problem with it. They don't talk about being afraid, but you're very afraid and you're worried you won't be as good as them. You're worried that you'll be seen as weak or small, that you can do quite well in your normal situations, whether at home or at work, that you've got your routine, you know how to do things, but the minute you get up in front of people or the minute the floor is yours to talk, you're worried that you'll seem smaller than you are, weaker than you are, meeker than you are. And that might change the way people think about you. You're worried that people won't appreciate the work that you've done. You'll put in months of effort for this big capstone presentation and then no one will tell you how great you were. No one will give you the appreciation. No one will say, oh my gosh, that must have taken you so much time and effort. Thank you for sharing that. You're afraid that you'll be dismissed or that people won't actually listen to you. You're worried that if you put your ideas out there, people might not actually care. And that scares you. Do these concerns or these fears sound like you? Do they sound like what you're actually afraid of when it comes to public speaking and not public speaking itself? These fears are all 100% normal and 100% common. 9 times out of 10, these are the real fears behind public speaking and why people are afraid to do it. When you feel these fears, or you feel this nervousness, or you feel this anxiety, what's actually happening is the part of your brain that controls emotion and is part of the limbic system, it's going haywire. It's gone into fight or flight response because your body is physically reacting to a perceived fear or threat. The part of your brain that's doing this is called the amygdala, and the amygdala is in charge of regulating that. So your body is going all sorts of haywire in all different directions, and it's because you have triggered this part of your brain. It's why you feel like shaking. It's why you might actually be shaking. It's why you would rather go hide in a trash can. When you feel fear, or you feel afraid, or you feel threatened, the brain reacts accordingly. So here's step one. What is triggering your brain? What is the actual fear that is triggering your brain's fight or flight response? What's making you anxious, nervous, scared? What is it actually? What's that actual fear? And write that fear down. It's probably multiple fears, and it could be something other than what I listed previously, but write down what the actual fear or fears are. If you need that question again, answer this. Ultimately, what are you afraid of when it comes to public speaking? Ultimately, what outcome is frightening you? Once you've figured out what fear you are actually having when it comes to public speaking, and not the fear of public speaking in general, you can move on to step two. Step two is doing an inventory of how you approach that fear in your life otherwise. Where does that fear show up in other parts of your life, and how do you handle that fear in your other parts of your life? Do an inventory of how you approach other areas of your life where you have fear, disquiet, nervousness, or anxiety, and this exact fear shows up. I am loving the garbage truck that is coming down the road at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Who doesn't love hot garbage on the side of the road? Me and my video don't love it. Here's what I mean. As I said, I am very afraid of bears. Bears, though, live in locations that I like to visit. I like to adventure into national parks. I like to explore the outdoors. So bears are typically always going to be a part of those adventures that I like to take. So I could avoid bears altogether, but that would mean that I wouldn't be able to go hike, climb, be in the outdoors, or adventure like I normally do. It's a hindrance to something that I love so much. When it comes to public speaking and just avoiding it altogether, sure, you can do that, but how much will that hinder your career? How much will that hinder your conversations with people that you love? How much will that hinder the growth of the employees that you work with and setting an example for people? You can't just avoid it. You do have to take steps to overcome it, or at least deal with it better. So what I did is I took my fear of bears and I was like, okay, what else am I afraid of in my life, and how do I handle that? Another fear that I have is what's called thalassophobia. It means that I have a fear of open water that I can't see the bottom of. It's very different than the fear of just water or open water. It's the fact that I can't see the creatures that lurk beneath the surface that I believe exist. Therefore, I avoid open water. That's how I've dealt with that fear. I decided I wanted to get over that because I wanted to be able to go boogie boarding in Hawaii, which means that I had to deal with water that I couldn't see the bottom of. It was murky, the sand was all stirred up. So these are the steps that I took to get over that fear. Number one, I had a really good drink. Just kidding, I don't recommend that. Number one, I went into the water. I waded into the water. I got to like head level. Okay, that was fine. Then there was a sea turtle in the water. So I went out to where the sea turtle was, which is a creature underneath the water that I can't normally see. That was a little bit scary, but I was like, that's okay. Step three, I actually took a boogie board out into the waves and I stayed like at my hip level, but I tried out boogie boarding. I looked like a total novice, but that's okay. By the end of my stay in Hawaii, I was actually boogie boarding. I was out at the waves where my feet could not touch the ground. I could definitely not see everything underneath me. Yeah, was I still a little bit afraid? Totally. But was I doing something that I enjoyed and I wasn't going to let my fear stop me anymore? Yes. The same thing applies with bears. I'm someone that seeks knowledge to overcome my fears. So when it comes to bears, I research everything that there is to know about bears. I know with grizzly bears, you play dead if you interact with them. I know with black bears, if they fight you and you're in close range, you should fight back. I know you never want to get between a mama bear and her cub. I know that you never want to surrender your pack or give the animals food. You never want to run away from a bear because they will lay chase. You never want to climb a tree because, hey, bears can climb trees a whole lot better than humans can. I gather knowledge so that I am better prepared. That is how I handle my fear. So how do you handle your true fear when it comes to public speaking? Let's say it's disappointing others. Okay, so I'm sure that you give gifts to family members and friends for birthdays or holidays. How do you handle the fact that you might disappoint them with the gift that you give them? How do you overcome that? Do you research your friend or family member? Do you ask people around that person what that person wants as a gift? Do you look at the recent trends for gift giving? How do you handle the fact that you might disappoint people? Let's say your fear is that you're afraid of being wrong. How do you handle that or prepare for that in your normal everyday life? Let's say you're at work and you have to send this big email out, but you're worried it could have the wrong information or bad information. Do you just not send it out when it's required to go out? How do you handle the fact that you could have wrong or bad information? My guess is you probably cycle it around, send it to some coworkers, send it to your manager, get people to proof it, get people's eyes on it so that you know it's not as wrong as it could be if it was just you writing it without any other perspective. Let's say that you're afraid that people will see you differently, or they'll see you as weak, or maybe not as competent, or they will lose respect for you. How do you handle or prepare for this normally? Again, at work, let's say you are assigned to a new project. You are taken away from your regularly scheduled programming and you're put on a new team. Mistakes abound when you start new projects or you join a new team. It's just part of the process. It's how a lot of people learn. But how do you overcome that? How do you handle the fact that you might do things wrong, or people might not see you as very competent, or they might lose respect for you? If you're struggling to figure out what your true fear or your true fears are when it comes to public speaking, drop me a comment, send me an email, or head over to my Instagram and send me a DM. I would be happy to help you figure this out. Once you have identified your true fear or your true fears when it comes to public speaking, and you've paired them with how you handle them or you handle it in normal life, you can move on to step 3, which is actually taking action. What actions can you put in place today that will help you overcome that fear you have that's linked with public speaking? Here are my 4 tips. Number 1, work on telling a story. Yes, you've heard me say it before and you will definitely hear me say it again, but work on telling a story. I want you to start practicing telling a story, and here are a couple of prompts. Tell a story, and this is to yourself, about why you got assigned to this project or this team that you're working on or working with at work. Tell a story about one activity you did over the weekend. Tell a story about one routine action you took today, whether that was brushing your teeth, taking a shower, taking your vitamins, making breakfast, making lunch, walking the dog. Tell a story around that activity. Here's why you always want to focus on a story. You will never forget a story because it happened to you. You're telling everyone something that happened to you, so it's more ingrained in your memory. Stories also are the easiest, fastest, strongest way to make a connection with the people that you're talking to. Number 2, actually do it. Yep, you gotta actually do it. You gotta actually do the public speaking. Make sure to do your pre-work. Figure out what that fear is. It's not public speaking itself, but that underpinning fear. Figure out what that is, how you address that normally in your life, and how you can use those same mechanisms to address it when it comes to the next public speaking event that you have. And I put event in quotes. It could be a family Zoom call or a family Facebook Messenger call. It could be a virtual meeting at work. It could be filming a video for Instagram, for Facebook. It could look like walking to your neighbor's house and from a safe 6-foot distance away, waving, talking to them, telling them what you did over the weekend and what's new in your world, and asking them what's new in their world. There are so many steps in between you sitting on your couch, not doing anything, no public speaking, no interacting with humans, and getting up on stage in front of thousands of people and giving a presentation. It's just like a marathon. You wouldn't sign up for a marathon if you've never run before or you've never run a race. You would sign up probably for a couch to 5K. Try that out. See if you even like running, and then get further into it. Maybe do a 10K, half marathon, and then go for the full boat marathon. So many people think that when it comes to public speaking, they have to go from 0 to 1,000. And that's just not true. There are so many steps that you can take in between that are manageable and make it bite-sized. So make it bite-sized for yourself. Tip number 3, stop making it about you. Yep. Stop thinking about how nervous you are and how scared you are, and start thinking about what you are giving the audience. Our brains cannot process at the same time gratitude, giving, graciousness, as well as fight or flight. It doesn't have the capacity to do both at the same time. When you think about your audience, or you think about the people that you're talking to and what you're giving them, you actually calm down the amygdala. It starts to soothe itself, and the fight or flight response backs away. In a Harvard Business Review article, there were studies that have shown that an increase in gratitude in that thinking behavior shows a decrease in the fight or flight response of the amygdala. Here are questions that you can ask yourself to calm down your nerves. Who will be in the room? Who is listening? What do they need from me? What are they looking to learn? How can I give them everything that they need? How can I deliver the results that they want? Make sure to be specific in your answers. Don't give vague answers, but be specific, because not only will that help calm your brain down, but it will also help structure your speech or your presentation and guide you. Tip number 4, never fear, Hannah's here. Yes, indeed. If you have questions about what your fear actually is, how you handle it in real life, how you prepare for it, and activities that you can take to overcome it, or steps that you can take towards overcoming it, send me a message. Nearly every single client that I work with deals with their fear of public speaking, and we work through that together. So remember, number 1, work on telling a story. Number 2, actually go do it. Number 3, stop making it about you and start making it about other people. Number 4, never fear, Hannah's here. I can help. That's all I've got for today. These are my tips on overcoming your true fears when it comes to public speaking. If you'd like to learn more, be sure to check out my channel, subscribe, and I will catch you next time.